Hi, welcome back to English Buddhist Terminology. Last week we've talked about the first step to how we can become a Buddhist. And today let us also look at the second step to how we be a good Buddhist. And therefore the term which we'll be looking at today is the 5 precepts. And the 5 precepts are the basis of Buddhist morality. If we were to look at the word precept, it can be roughly explained as a way of refraining from doing certain things. And so before we go further, and let's first list out the 5 precepts. And they consist of, number 1, no killing. Number 2, no stealing. Number 3, no sexual misconduct. Number 4, no lying. Number 5, no intoxicants. Basically, there are 2 very basic principles of behavior contained within the 5 precepts. And the first one can be said to be keep from harming other beings. And secondly, the 5 precepts are there to help us do good. And remember, no one has to be forced to take the 5 precepts in Buddhism, because taking the 5 precepts does not mean putting a restraint onto yourself. It's not like adding all kinds of restrictions onto you by saying, don't do this, don't do that, you must not do this, you must not do that. Instead, the 5 precepts act as the basis of all Buddhist morality. And even more generally, we can even regard the 5 precepts as the basis of all goodness. And the 5 precepts shows us that the self is preeminent, and it shows the need to respect other people's rights, feelings, as well as needs. And in principle, the 5 precepts means to refrain from trespassing or harming others. In other words, true freedom can only be gained when we do not obstruct the freedom of others for our own benefits. Let us now look at the content or the details of the 5 precepts separately. And first of all, what comes as number 1 within the 5 precepts is no killing. Killing means to violate other people's right to life. Therefore, it can be said that you are putting other living beings' life to an end without their willingness. And it can also be regarded as an extremely serious way of harm. But on the other hand, we can look at no killing from a different perspective by saying that no killing means to respect other people's lives. So from a less restraining point of perspective, it's about respect for other living beings. Therefore, even if it comes down to small insects or animals, such as mosquitoes or cockroaches, we should never just kill them just because we want to, or just because we find it good or find it fun, and so on. And therefore, from what we have said so far, we can even say that respect means the basis of all good merits. But of course, we have to remember that Buddhism is centered around human beings. And therefore, as a religion that centers around human beings, we have to realize that no killing in this context refers to no killing human beings. In other words, the parajika precept of no killing within the 5 precepts basically means not to kill other human beings. And this is very different from killing other smaller forms of lives. Let's look at the term parajika over here. Parajika means the the most severe offense of a Buddhist. Therefore, if you violate a parajika precept, it cannot be repented. Therefore, in this case, say you kill a human being, you violate the parajika precept of no killing, and then this is something that cannot be repented. But killing smaller forms of life, such as insects, on the other hand, although it is still a violation, but it is only considered a bad seed or impure conduct, and the bad karma resulted from committing such a minor violation of precepts can be eradicated through the sincere act of repentance. Nevertheless, just because we've said this, it doesn't mean that it is okay for you to kill any forms of life. Furthermore, you must never kill these forms of life just out of your own happiness. And furthermore, be it conducting the act of killing yourself, or persuading other people to do the killing, or even feeling happy in seeing other people conducting the act of killing, all of these are wrong. Now, while we've said that killing is wrong, there are some exceptions to which the severity of the karma that you have accumulated from committing the act of killing may be different. For example, when you are killing one evil person to save the life of 100. Although the karma of killing is still there, the effect of killing has been created, but since you have done it out of the mind to want to help or save the life of another 100 person, then of course the severity of this bad karma will also be lessened. If we were to look at the list of the 5 precepts, you may notice that killing comes as first within the 5 precepts. Why? Because the act of killing is the least subtle, and it is also the foundation for all others. And if people were able to see that the act of killing is wrong, and then perhaps they will also be able to see that all the other 4 are also wrong as well, all the other 4 types of harming. And the most important is that no killing teaches us compassion and consideration for the needs and rights of others. In other words, it's about you showing your respect and understanding that all beings are one. If I treat you as a part of me, a very important part of my life, and treat everything else as if they are my own, then of course I would not wish to cause any harm onto anything that is related to myself. And so this is a very good starting point for those who are looking into ways to observe this particular precept of killing. In other words, when you respect other people, you are also respecting yourself. So respect for others means respect for yourself. And that's why there is a famous saying that tells us, do not do to others what you do not wish to be done to yourself. And this is, of course, very important to every one of us. And so far we've only talked about the act of killing living beings or animals. Therefore, some may wonder, and what about plants? How do plants come into the picture? And if we were to kill a plant or break a plant, does that mean that we're also violating the precept of no killing? In other words, is killing plants all right? Now, this is a very interesting question. And the way we can explain or distinguish between plants and animals in Buddhism is by saying that plants are not sentient beings. In other words, they do not have any awarenesses. Therefore, they are not like animals. But animals, on the other hand, are also sentient beings waiting to be awakened. Therefore, as sentient beings, they would require our extra respect and care in order for us to help them to one day also reach the state of complete awakening. And that is why Buddhists observe vegetarianism. That is, to nurture a heart of compassion and respect for all living beings. And therefore, by observing vegetarianism, it is also a way for us to stay away from the cycle of raising and killing animals. And that's why a very famous verse in Buddhism tells us the following. If you want to know what the misfortune of war is like, just stand outside the slaughterhouse at midnight and listen. And another verse tells us that my flesh, sentient beings' flesh, although different in name, are the same in nature. And they are of the same nature, but only taking on different forms. Let the animals suffer pain and agony, while I enjoy their sweet and tender flesh. Without waiting for Yama to judge, we ourselves can imagine what the consequences shall be. These are some of the examples to which we can see in the Buddhist texts that encourage us to nurture a compassionate mind and tells us to stay away from the act of killing, even if it is done through eating the flesh or meat of living beings. And even in the Great Nirvana Sutra, it tells us that people who eat meat disturb the growth of great compassion. Whether they are walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, other sentient beings can smell the meat they have eaten. Thus, they are made afraid. Basically, we cannot find any excuses for killing. And we cannot pretend that we don't know what we're doing, because we do. So anything that is done to complete an act of killing cannot be given an excuse. Say, for example, just because you mistaken a human being in the dark as a tree stump, it doesn't mean that it is okay for you to pick up a knife and slash through that human being's body. While the effects of killing may take time to manifest, it doesn't mean that no effects will ever be shown in front of us. And in fact, the effect of killing can cause a direct impact on our mind. For example, a mind that has conducted the act of killing would be like a mind that is full of poisons. If you have ever killed someone, of course, you will not feel free or at ease. In some level, feel some kind of guilt within your mind, even if you do not show it to other people. And furthermore, a mind that has conducted the act of killing will experience more negativity and even anger in the self as well as the world. In other words, this will not be a mind that will enjoy a positive and joyful emotion. And furthermore, another effect of killing our mind would be where one feels anxious and finds it hard to sleep, and you will not be able to feel joy in anything. And the final effect of killing our mind, which you have here, is that one will be extremely terrified upon death. Since you have done the act of killing, you have that in the back of your conscience. Upon the moment of death, perhaps the guilt will all come back to you, and it will not be easy for you to find a condition where there is rebirth in realms that could lead you to enlightenment. So therefore, the above are the very basic contents of the first of the 5 precepts, which is the precept of killing.